Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, today we will be talking about 5 tips for high school or basic undergraduate writing. These tips are going to be intended for, again, high school students and early undergraduate students that are struggling in their writing courses. Generally, most high school students will need to complete some type of senior project, and that will typically include writing. It may also be beneficial for undergraduate students that are finding themselves getting low marks on their papers and certain writing projects early on in their academic career. Writing is so incredibly important in all facets of life, whether you are trying to just get through college or whether you are already in the workforce. Most roles will have to engage in some form of technical writing, training development, creating presentations for your management to view. Writing is going to be at the center of all of that, and it's extraordinarily surprising how such a terrible job most high schools especially, but also some colleges may do in teaching this very learnable skill to their students. So today I would like to go over the 5 tips for high school or undergraduate writing. So let's go ahead and get started. First, the use of formal language. You always want to keep your academic writing or technical writing formal. So any type of use of slang, overly casual language, or colloquialisms should be avoided. So avoid any type of phrases or idioms such as putting all of your eggs in one basket, using certain types of words like y'all or gonna. Even though y'all is in theory grammatically correct, it's incredibly outdated by a few hundred years. Of course, text slang like gonna should be avoided. Casual language in academic writing, of course, will appear irresponsible and immature, so it's best to avoid this altogether. This one may be a given. However, some students feel, especially early on in their writing career, that they should try to relate to a potential audience, and students may struggle to determine what a specific audience is, and sometimes they believe they are writing their papers for their peers, and in order to gain some type of favor, using a more comfortable language is something that students often default to. An example of this is they read a book by one of their favorite authors and hey, they use slang, or perhaps if it's a historical novel, they may use language from that point in history, how an average person may have spoken, which is incorrect for academic writing, although may be perfectly acceptable for fictitious writing. Depending on the type of writing that you're using, you'll have to make that determination yourself. Okay, use of third person and also maintaining objectivity. So typically in academic writing, you will almost always want to write in the third person, and you will always want to stay objective. So the use of first person language should always be avoided. So use of I, we. A lot of academic writing, particularly in high school classes, begins with I think that, it is my opinion that, I believe. Like a lot of sentences will start in that way. You want to avoid that. So you want to use more third person language. He, she, it, they. Those are examples for using third person language. Using the third person will also help you stay objective as well. So instead of trying to write off your opinions, such as I believe, you can stay objective and look at the facts for what it is that you are writing about. You also want to typically avoid hearsay or opinions. Again, staying objective will help with this, but anything that you write about needs to be supported. You need to be able to argue with it using peer-reviewed sources. You don't want to simply give opinions about something that you're writing about. So that brings us to our next topic, number 3, only using credible sources. So first, there are multiple different types of sources. You can either use primary, secondary, or tertiary sources. Now, it should be noted that each of these have their place and may or may not be specifically what is recommended for your paper or your writing project, your essay, whatever it may be. A tertiary source may be acceptable for some things, may be completely unacceptable for other types of projects. So What is a source? Well, in academic writing, a credible source is often going to be a peer-reviewed book or journal. Depending on the subject matter, primary, secondary sources are valid. Things such as interviews, surveys, eyewitness accounts. The social sciences are very notable in using things like interviews and surveys and things like that. So those types of sources and that type of information is going to be very important. Another piece of knowledge for you that's considered qualitative information. So interviews, surveys, those are things that are not inherently tied to numbers, right? So you have a few different types of information, quantitative and qualitative. Qualitative is going to be that type of information there. So essentially those would qualify as primary or secondary sources, but also qualitative as well. And reminder that Wikipedia is not a credible source, or any other type of website or social media that you may get information from, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That's not to mean that those cannot be good starting points for research. I mean, certainly you can find an interesting idea over social media or some good information on Wikipedia. However, you will want to then expand that search into a peer-reviewed source. All right, moving on to number 4. So this is where you start to get into the actual practice of writing the paper. So you want to use a clear and logical structure. There are different ways to do this, and obviously the first step is going to be following a set format for your paper. Depending on your assignment, this could be a myriad of writings. Every school has their preference. Every college of arts and sciences will have their preference. Every professor will have their preference. So MLA, APA, Chicago, maybe even styles that are specific to only your school, you'll want to check with your professor or teacher as to what format they want you to follow. However, the good news is that once you do get that format, you are able to look up various sources on that in order to be sure your paper is structured correctly. That can really be beneficial. So you'll always want to organize using headings and subheadings, especially if you're writing in, APA or something like that. And of course, you may have seen an image such as this one at the lower right-hand corner of the screen, the inverted pyramid here. Or the inverted triangle. So it's typically best to begin with general ideas and then move towards more specific language. So this is why the pyramid or the triangles look like this. So it's wider here at the top. So you start with general language, and then you'll be moving toward the center, and you see it comes to a closed or a much more narrow point here. That's because you want to move towards more specific language. So think of this as a generalized introduction, moving into your specific body paragraphs, and then leading back towards a conclusion where you're going to begin to speak more generally about the subject matter at hand rather than specific topics. So you'll want to get a good structure, and this is normally the best way to do it. All right, and number 5, the one that honestly gets skipped over the most, proofreading multiple times. So you want to proofread as often as possible, even while you're still writing the paper. Use various methods of proofreading. So reading from top to bottom is fine, but you may want to implement other methods like reading backwards or in small chunks. Reading backwards one sentence at a time can be extraordinarily helpful. And you also want to maybe take advantage of an experienced friend or a writing center to review your writing. So if you are a college student, your college most assuredly has a writing center that you have paid exorbitant amount of fees for, that you will want to take advantage of. The writing center can most definitely help you with proofreading at the end of the day, and also with things like structure and making sure your MLA formatting, APA formatting, whatever it is correct as well, making sure your citations are in order. However, proofreading is ultimately going to be your responsibility, and you will want to do it multiple times in multiple methods, and maybe even reach out to a third party to help you. Again, you don't want to engage in any wrongful or unethical academic behavior, so no cheating. However, having someone assist you in proofreading is certainly fair game. Okay, and there you have it. So those are 5 tips that's going to improve your writing. They are basic tips, but again, they are catered toward high school and early undergraduate students. If you are an advanced undergraduate or you are a graduate student, this guide is likely not helpful because you would not be where you are if you had not already mastered these steps. But it's incredibly surprising how many people are struggling with these basic concepts. So with that being said, I hope this was beneficial for you. If you would, leave a like and subscribe as well if you like this type of educational content. Thank you for watching, and I certainly hope you have a wonderful day.